Welcome back, Speak Your Truth fam. This is your girl Yana Positive with another episode on the Yana Positive channel. This is Speak Your Truth, the Untold, and here at Speak Your Truth, we create an airy space of inspirational, relatable, empowering, and elevating content. So it's no different than any other week. We are here to learn more and to speak truth that are not typically spoken in our today's society, and to really delve into deep issues and topics that nobody else talks about. So welcome you all, welcome one, welcome all. If you're new and you're just joining us, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you can be notified when we upload another video. If you are coming back, welcome back fam. It's good to see you. Remember to leave a comment below because you're as much a part of this family as I am. You've helped us grow so far, and I thank you for your faith and your trust in myself and in the guests that I've brought on this program. Speaking of guests, we have somebody very special today. Her name is Anna Rocha. She is a registered nurse, and she is also an associate director of the Nedley Depression and Anxiety series and seminars. I've also been a part of that series, and I've also benefited from it, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we are so excited to have her here. Anna is a part of the Westchester Church. Once again, I would like to thank Pastor Manning for this beautiful studio, and Elvia Mendez and her husband Samuel for constructing what we see here. It's really good, guys. It's really beautiful. It's really a work of art. And I would like to also thank Anna for coming and speaking to us today. She is going to be talking about something that we don't normally talk about, and I think the world of Anna. She's such a gentle, kind, loving soul, and you'll hear that in a minute. The first time I saw her, I thought Anna looks like a fairy, and she's quite like that, very kind, very nice. So you guys will hear from her soon. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much. It's such a blessing to be here.
It is a blessing to have you as well. And we are going to talk about depression and anxiety and what that looked like for you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I was born in Oregon. I grew up there for 16 years, and I went to British Columbia for 2 years in high school. And then I went to Tennessee to be a college student. I graduated there in 2018 with my bachelor's of science in nursing. And then I've had 5 years now working as a nurse. In 3 in Tennessee, 2 in Pennsylvania, and I've been really blessed that God hasn't left me. He's been with me the whole way.
And we are blessed to have you here as well. You've been such a blessing. Let's talk a little bit about your growing up. Like, what did that look like?
Well, I had 2 parents, 2 loving parents, and 3 younger sisters. We were all really close together in age, only 6 years between the youngest and the oldest. But I kind of grew up faster than everyone else, it seemed like. I was trying to help Mom with a lot of things, so I seemed to just come to me like, oh, this needs to be done and this needs to be done. I think a lot of oldest kids have that problem.
Yeah.
Have that, their mom's right-hand girl or boy. And so I didn't really want to play with the dolls like with my sisters, but I wanted to hang out more with the adults. So I kind of felt a little bit alone with my sisters. They were, playing with their dolls and stuff, and I was trying to help Mom with a chore or something.
So you were very much a mature kid, and you wanted to do all the skills, and I bet you had big hopes and dreams for yourself as well.
Yeah.
So that must have been like a lonely experience, especially when you hit teenage years and you're a little bit more mature than everybody else. What did that look like?
Well, as a teenager, you're right, I was more mature in some ways, not in other ways. Like relationally, socially, I was not as experienced as some, but I knew that God needed to be first, and that kept me out of a lot of trouble. And I wasn't attracted to all the drugs or because I knew that messed up people's lives, and thankfully I wasn't attracted to going out with all the guys, but I had friends, but we had moved so much in my teenage experience that it was harder for me to make friends as it was. But I didn't have really any friends growing up in my teenage years.
Did you grow up in church?
Yeah, I did. We attended almost every Sabbath. We were at church. My dad was a Sabbath school teacher, so he taught all of his kids classes. As we grew older, he went to the teens even, and all my friends loved him. I think more than me, no.
But so this is a really pretty picture we've painted. You grew up with two loving parents.
Yes.
You're a pretty Christian girl, born Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes.
And you were more mature for your age, so you knew what you wanted out of life. You had your priorities in place and in check. But what was the turning point for you? We're talking about anxiety and depression. When did it become that a pretty Christian girl got depressed? When did that become, was there like a turning point or turning event in your life that made you now feel this unbearably sadness?
That's a really good question. The puberty is not easy to go through, as I think everyone would agree. And, all that influence of all the hormones, I think really, especially for girls, it kind of, you have a big decline in your self-confidence. And, when I was 11, I was like, life is great, I can do anything. And then when I was 12, 13, I was like, I don't have any friends. I'm like, what I thought was important, like having more friends, was, I wanted to be more socially accepted, I guess, and I didn't feel that I was. So I think that's kind of what started. Also, there were some events in my family that I felt like God wasn't pleased with. I felt we were kind of going down a worldly track, and I was sad because I felt like they weren't listening to me, my parents, my sisters, and I was like, well, I felt like both of my parents, I felt like we're going through like a midlife crisis at the same time, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to deal with this, anyway, I felt like in some ways I was more mature than my parents, like, come on, we have to follow God's way, but everyone has their own journey. Yeah. And it's not the same for everybody.
It is definitely not. And I feel like myself and other persons can definitely relate to that. I grew up also Seventh-day Adventist, and you would think, as a Christian, do I have the right to feel these emotions? Do I have the right to feel depressed? Do I have the right to be anxious? Do I have the right to be sad? People look at you and go God is there, the answers are in the Bible, pray about it. And that isn't the cure for depression. That alone can't make me well. Right. But when we get into teenage years, it even becomes more more confusing.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about theories. Well, I do. And one of my favorite is Erik Erikson's stages of development. Yeah. And there is that role where it's identity versus confusion, where you get into teenage years and you're trying to figure out, who am I? You know, where do I fit in society? Where are my friends? Who are they? Can I be the cool person? Do I be the nerdy kid? Where do I fit in? And it's such a confusing time because feelings are intense. And if you've ever met a teenager, I know everybody's been a teenager themselves, you would know that they feel like it's the end of the world. And no matter how you kind of reassure yourself, like, I'm going to be an adult soon, it does feel like it is the end of the world. So I bet that was a really confusing time for you. And I can definitely relate to that. So you had this whole confusion, you had the conflicts with your parents, and you wanted to do what was right, but you struggled with, where do I fit in the world? And, you know, I'm, you know, a little bit socially awkward. I don't have a lot of friends. Like, where do I fit in? You know, who am I? And that's a question a lot of people ask. And when you're struggling with that, what were the feelings that came along with it?
Yeah, just I felt like nobody really understood me. Mm-hmm. Now I know that's not so important if people don't understand me. But, you know, I felt like I needed to be understood. I felt like I needed to have a best friend. That's what a lot of people say. Oh, she's my best friend, you know. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it felt like, you know, some people say that you only need 1 or 2 or 3 good friends, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't even have that. I had a lot of acquaintances though. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I guess I just felt a little
lonely. Yeah. And I bet that created like a world of itself, where you had all these strong emotions, and one of them that stood out was loneliness. And it's an emotion that we often ascribe to depression. Mm-hmm. You know, that loneliness and that fear of failure are two like really big emotions that often come out when people say, oh, I've been depressed, and you ask them why. Well, you know, I was lonely. I felt like nobody understood me, and I feel like that's a general human emotion, but we're not supposed to go through life by ourselves. Yeah. So that loneliness is definitely like something that is valid, like this is what you feel, you know. What would you say are like some other causes? Because we're speaking to an associative director of the Ted Nedley, wait, is it Ted? Neil. I know a Ted. Neil Nedley series. What would you say are like the most common causes of depression?
Well, now we know Dr. Nedley's actually done a lot of research over the years with the depression and anxiety and other mental health illnesses, but there's actually more than 100 causes of depression. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he categorized them into 10 different categories. And some of them are lifestyle, you know, if we're not getting enough exercise, fresh air, sunshine, those things have a big impact on how our body goes to sleep, mm-hmm. how our body works, and the chemicals that we produce, and the brain balance of chemicals that we have. Addictions is a big one, like even cell phones can qualify as an addiction. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of developmental. If we had an event in our childhood, we're more likely to have one in our adulthood. And also genetic can be like if your mom or dad had.
And I would like to emphasize that, because a lot of people think depression is just like a feeling or a phase and come on, snap out of it. But it's genetic. It's just like what do you call it? Actual diseases. Yeah. It is also something that can be passed on from one person to another, like a parent to a child. And sometimes people don't realize that oftentimes the mental illnesses, just like physical illnesses, are genetic.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's very important.
Yeah, the good news is that even though you have a genetic hit or developmental or even 10 hits, you have all 10 categories, you can decrease them to not even having the symptoms of depression if you fix your lifestyle, you get rid of your addictions, treating your body well. It actually makes a big difference. And learning how to think correctly really helps.
It does.
Yes.
And speaking about theories again, guys, I promise I do not overcomplicate things, but one of my favorite theories is CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy or theory. And it really is like the way you think is the way you feel, and the way you feel is the way you act. So it's kind of like a chain of events, and immediately, like, what you think within your mind is sometimes so instantaneous, like it goes and it comes very quickly, that sometimes we don't hold accountable what is in our minds,
right,
and we don't catch it fast enough.
Yeah.
So then it influences the way we feel, and we're confused, like, why am I sad, and then it influences the way we act.
That's so true.
Yes. Did you have more to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that CBT is the gold standard of psychology, as they call it, and a lot of times we have one of those like pop-in thoughts, like you said, and what I've learned is it doesn't matter so much what thoughts come into our mind, it's what we do with those thoughts. Like, are we going to dispute them? Is that true or not? And if it is true, maybe it's a negative truth. Maybe a negative truth, could be a positive truth. But what's helpful from that? And I think asking what's helpful, what's truthful from our thoughts can really help us, and asking, why am I sad, or why am I angry, why am I, asking and naming those emotions, right? Learn to recognize it. It really helps thinking through the process.
It does. And don't always believe what goes on in your mind. So you had these thoughts. I'm lonely. Nobody understands me. I just feel like I'm in my own world and there's no one there. And that influenced the way you feel. You're lonely, you're sad. But how did it influence the way you act?
Well, very practically, I didn't have good posture. I didn't have good, I was slunched over.
It affects you physically. Yes. That's a good point, guys, because we don't never hear people talk about this. It affects you physically,
I didn't have this problem, but a lot of people have, heart disease because of depression, and a lot of other medical diseases because of depression too. So that's a good point. But physically, I was, looking very serious all the time. I didn't really smile. It was very hard to get to know me. I didn't say hardly anything at all. It was very painful for me to talk to people. I dressed very, I don't know, old lady. No offense to the old ladies.
We understand what you mean. Yeah.
So I didn't, I felt awkward. Yeah.
So for any parent that is watching this and wants to know like what that looks like, this is what it looks like. It looks like you withdrawing, just slouching over any like physical illness that's attached to it, because a lot of kids have now been like diagnosed with diabetes or let's not attach to that. But you do know that it has like other effects on the body, like people eat too much or eat too little bit and don't sleep, or they sleep too much. It does have different effects on everybody, but at the end of the day, a lot of people will withdraw from society, and it's kind of there for you to see, you know.
Yeah, I think some people don't talk about this very much, but even like bedwetting as a teenager can be a symptom of depression.
Bedwetting.
Yeah, and anxiety. Like not having like you're a teenager, you've been not wetting the bed for years, you know, since you were a tiny kid, and all of a sudden you're having this really embarrassing, you don't want to tell anyone. But that can be a symptom of depression.
So the kid is not rude, they're probably just depressed. So that was the effect that it had on you. But in your midlife, you met somebody that didn't make you feel as lonely anymore, and you got into a relationship. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I'm not in my midlife yet. I'm only in my late 20s. But yes, I had in college, actually, you know, in high school, I was able to come out of my shell a little bit more. I was around kids all the time because I was at boarding school, so I was kind of forced to be out of my shell, and I think I really blossomed there. And also in college, I really blossomed. God allowed me to be friends or meet a lot of really awesome people that nurtured me spiritually. And yeah, there was this, he was actually my boss. He was like 2-3 years older than me. And we had a lot in common and a lot of common interests. And after 2 years, we decided that we wanted to date. And it was really great because it's nice to have, you know, someone you can share life with, you know. And we actually broke up, and then, you know, a few years later we dated again. And during that time, my family was going through a lot with different situations, and you know, I felt like he was my rock, you know, my anchor. Even though I think God should be our only anchor, true anchor, but it's nice to have some people too sometimes to lean on. And that's important. But the only problem was he was kind of taking me away from my friends, and our relationship wasn't it was becoming not very healthy either, unfortunately. So it did help me get through a time, but yeah, it wasn't healthy, and thankfully we did break up before we got married. And you know, God knows, because that relationship really helped me to grow, and understand more about what red flags are in dating, you know, when to say no, you know, and no is a really hard word sometimes.
It is, but it is a full sentence.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you're, especially I think as a people-pleasing, I like to make people happy. Yeah. And but that's not always my job to make people happy. Sometimes, you know, we have to answer to God first, right? And not for other people. So anyway, but yeah, that relationship did help for some time, but it could have been better.
Yeah. So with this relationship that was toxic, did your depression increase? Like, were you more depressed, or how did you handle like even the fallout of that?
I think I managed fine until I went on to night shift with my work. It was just too many things stacked on top of each other. Where I was working night shift, my whole family was toxic. My boyfriend was toxic. I was drawn away from my friends at the time, because night shift, you don't have energy to see, at least I didn't have energy to see my friends in the day. I was just really tired. I wasn't exercising because I was really tired. I wasn't eating properly. I lost some weight. And it was just, I wasn't getting sunlight. It was just not a good thing. And I had to drive a long ways home after my night shift. And sometimes I would sleep in the car before I drove home. And then, just sleep in a little bit more in the house and then go back to work. But I really respect night shift people. It's not for me. But just like on my way home, I was, thinking like, man, I can't handle this. Like, this is too much. But I couldn't see a way out. Somehow, like, it just seemed like there was nothing, no other options. And I didn't want to do this anymore, and I was thinking like, wow, maybe I could just drive off the road and hit a tree or something and it would be over. Maybe I can just, sounds crazy. But
it does not. That's all right.
Yeah, when you're, you don't have any other option. But that thought kind of scared me. I was like, that's not right. There's something in me that told me that's not right. And I was like, you know what? I should probably see a counselor. And I'm gonna do that. I had been wanting to see one for a while, just to help with my family and stuff. But it was that moment that I had the courage, like, no, I need to do this. I need to follow through. And they actually helped me set up a safe plan. If you're having these suicidal thoughts, then this people you can call. You can call this person that cares about you, this person. You can call this hotline, so you have a plan. And it really helped me to have that plan, to talk about my feelings and what I was going through with somebody who was kind of a third party that wasn't involved in my family, didn't know my family, didn't know my friends. They just knew my side of the story, and they weren't biased, And that was really helpful for me. And a little while later, actually, I found out about the Nedley Depression Recovery Program, because I got a new job at a day shift clinic. That was a huge blessing. And actually, it was part of my job to be associate director of this program, and it was a huge blessing because I didn't realize how depressed I was. And I didn't really understand as much as I know now. I'm still learning a lot about mental health and what tools I needed. We always hear, you gotta make sure you exercise, eat your water, the 8 laws of health, right? But how they pertain scientifically to the mind is fascinating to me. And it's just, it was such a blessing to go through. So I was learning at the same time as my participants. I had about 10 participants in my first program, and it was just a huge blessing. We were all learning together, and just all the program was just a huge blessing.
That's good. Yeah. I want to pinpoint something you said. I think for somebody who struggles with like depression and anxiety, the most dangerous thought ever is that there's no way out. Like, there's no hope, there's no future, you don't see anything getting any better. And I feel like that is the most dangerous thought for somebody who struggles with depression to have, but it's so easy to feel that way because when you're going through things, it's kind of like almost I don't want to compare it, but it's almost like you're feeling like a whole Job without the faith. You know, everything is happening all at once. You know, family stuff, job stuff, relationship stuff, everything is kind of crunched into that one space and onto this one person, and you suddenly feel like you can't handle it. Like there's no hope, there's no way. And I feel like that's when the turning point comes for somebody who has depression to go from depression to now suicidal ideations, where you're thinking about, well, if there's no hope, there's no sense of living. And in my culture, we have a saying, once there's life, there's hope. I don't know if you guys say the same thing. And I feel like it's kind of that reassurance that, well, if there's life, there's a cycle of life. Things get bad, then things get good, and then things get bad again. But once there's life, there is hope that the bad is going to turn to good, and the good is going to, you know, it's going to get bad, but then the bad is going to turn to good, and it's a cycle of life. And I feel like that is like a plan of the enemy to trap you into to that mindset that things are never going to get better. But I feel like for you and your story, like you found purpose in the Nedley Depression and Anxiety series. And for you, that was an upliftment. Like, yeah, things can get better. There's hope. I'm helping people. I'm helping me. Life is good. You know, it may be rough, but things can get better. So tell us a little bit more about this program that made you feel hopeful.
Yeah, while I was learning, I really was fascinated that some people like go through the Holocaust, right? That's some of the most terrible things people have ever gone through. And some people have depression and some people don't, you know? Like I had heard, like, if you, of course you're going to be depressed because you went through this hard time, right? But it's really our choice. I didn't know that we had a choice to choose what path we're going to go. Yeah, that's just so powerful.
It is so powerful because we always say, like, we don't choose what happens to us, but we choose how we react to it. And that's true for the small stuff just as much as it is for the big stuff. Like, you don't choose your family. You don't choose what happened to you in your childhood. You don't choose to be poor as a child. But as an adult, or, you know, as you grow, you have to take accountability for the actions that come with what happens to you, you know, how you react. And yes, life is hard and things happen, but at the end of the day, what are you gonna do to ensure that it's not happening again, or you're improving, you know? Yeah,
I like what you said there. I was thinking of Eleanor Roosevelt and her quote that said, "Nothing can make you feel inferior without your consent." And I just think of, like, how Jesus, you know, he went through really hard times. You know, he was born in a manger. He was disadvantaged politically and, you know, socially, but he knew his value. And, you know, he experienced worse things than we'll ever have to experience. And he did that for us. And that's a free gift, you know? And that joy, that doesn't have to go away, you know? When we're Christians, we can carry that with us wherever we are. Even if we're going through something hard, we know that in this earth we're going to experience hard things. And it's not always our fault. And many times it's not our fault. But God can turn those disappointments into appointments. He can turn everything into good for those who love him and those who are called according to Jesus Christ.
And that's a very important point. With this series, I'm sure came lessons. And what I started out with like the stereotype, like Christians shouldn't be depressed. Like, what do you have to be depressed about? And on the outside, it might have looked nice, but on the inside, there was turmoil. And that happens to so many people. And for you, you took it and learned the lessons from it. And you're here with us today, and we're thankful for that. For somebody who may still be struggling to find the lessons and find the hope in it, what would you tell them?
I think, lifestyle is a lot bigger than you think. Omega-3s, a lot of people don't get their omega-3s, and I think just that one thing is huge in helping people to have the right balance.
Could you list them?
Yeah, omega-3s, you can find them in chia seed, hemp seed, flaxseed, and walnuts. Those are the building blocks for serotonin, and serotonin is the happy hormone that helps our mind feel balanced and be able to have those happy emotions.
And so with the health, with getting your omega-3s, what are some other advice you can give them? How do I get out of this feeling of helplessness and hopelessness?
Well, I think I would recommend highly to do the Nedley Depression and Anxiety Program. It's available online, or you can also go to nedleyhealth.com and find a residential program near you or a community-based program. The residential program is a 10-day in-person program where you can, there's one in California and there's one in Georgia in the United States, but there might be a community-based program near you, or you can do the online version as well.
And we'll link it in the description below so persons can access it. You can just click on the link and it'll take you right there. For somebody who's listening, say in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, in Canada, in the UK, and they don't have access to do the online program, or what are like 3 practical steps they can take? We have the omega-3. What else would they need to do to now say overcome their depression or what they're feeling?
3 steps. I'd say thoughts are your biggest helper and your biggest enemy. The way that you think about the situation makes a big difference. Journaling helps a lot because sometimes we don't realize what our thoughts are until we write them down. And ask. It's okay to ask for help. Get some counseling and go through those thoughts. And the counselors can give you tools to help you analyze your thoughts. And I would just recommend, if you are seeking a counselor, make sure they use the cognitive behavioral therapy model, because that's the most effective model. I really like to advertise Abide.network, Abide.network. You don't have to put a .com, just Abide.network, and there is Christian Adventist-friendly counselors there that you just have to put in the intake form, and they'll contact you if that's a good option for you. So we got thinking, omega-3s. I think sunshine is really important. We're always inside nowadays with our technology, and the sun's rays, the infrared heat on the sun, it lifts our mood. Even though it's a cloudy day, it can still improve our mood just by the infrared on our skin has a effect, and also vitamin D that our body makes. Our vitamin D is actually not a vitamin; it's a hormone.
Ooh,
so
I did not know that.
Yeah, hormone, and it actually has a lot to do with our mental health as well, and also our immune health. And our immune system and our happiness is connected as well. Some people don't know that. But so if you're happy, you're more likely to be less sick. Or less likely to be sick. So yeah, those 3 things I think are great. Your thoughts, omega-3s, and sunshine. You know, and while you're out there in the sunshine, get some fresh air and exercise. You get 3 things at once. I think, you know, those 3 things are huge in helping mental health.
That is huge. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but depression is physiological. That's the term, right? So it's like your mental state affecting, or your physical body affecting your mental state, or the other way around. Something like that. It's the connection between the mind and the body. So a lot of times we talk about mental health and people think it's only mental. I mean, that's a depression. That's crazy. Like, that's in your mind, you know? But now we talk about the effects that not having the proper things in your body can have on your mind. And that is mind-blowing in and of itself, pun intended. So we talk about omega-3s. Your thoughts can be your biggest friend or your greatest enemy. And also getting sunshine, exercise, air, water, all the good stuff. The small things, they do matter, and they do add up to, you know, ultimately what you think.
And sunshine can actually help reset our sleeping cycle. A lot of times when we're depressed, we don't sleep well at night. We wake up early in the morning. We're not able to sleep at night until late. And just getting that early morning sunshine, right when you wake up for the first 10 minutes. If you're in an area where you can see the sunshine when you wake up, that's ideal. Just go for a 20-minute walk when you first wake up, and that will reset. If you do that for 7 days, you'll reset your circadian rhythm. And you'll be able to sleep throughout the night.
So for people, and you know, if I'm talking to you, that wake up early in the morning and can't go back to bed, this is a good way to, you know, start your day and reset your sleeping cycle as well. Take a 20 minutes walk, get in the sunshine and the fresh air, probably take a bottle of water with you, and you will definitely feel the difference. It definitely is a difference, yeah. So is there anything else you want to add, whether to your testimony or whether to let people know about, you know, depression and anxiety?
Yeah, if you know somebody who's depressed, if you know someone who's anxious, you know, I think that sometimes they just want to be listened to. Or sometimes just listening to them can be really helpful. Maybe they've gone through a loss lately. Maybe they've experienced the loss of a spouse or a friend or family member. Asking them, you know, how you can help, or, you know, I want to be here for you. I'm here for you. Anything you need, just let me know. Can be really helpful to know you're not alone, you know. And if you are experiencing depression or anxiety, I would encourage you, don't give up. It's, you know, 1 in 4 people in their lifetime are going to experience depression and anxiety, so you're not alone. There's a lot of other people who are going through the same thing that you are. And you are worthwhile. You have only you have the skills to reach another person that someone else cannot reach. You know, maybe you have skills that nobody else has. And maybe you don't think so, but you do. And so don't give up. You're worthwhile.
Don't give up. You're worthwhile. Those are really encouraging words, and they sound simple because we hear them so often, but when you're in the depths of depression, it's really something that you needed to be reminded of. And so we thank you. And this is spontaneous, guys, but we prayed before we start, but I do feel the impression for us to pray right now for anybody like experiencing depression, for a lovely guest, Anna, and for this program, and anybody who might hear it that may want to give up and lose all hope. But we're here to encourage you. Don't give up. You're worthwhile.
Amen. Can we pray?
Can we sing?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Now, dear Lord, as we pray, take our hearts and minds far away from the press of the world all around, to your throne where grace does abound. May our lives be transformed by your love. May our souls be refreshed from above. At this moment, let people everywhere join us now as we come to you in prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you that all of your promises are in you, yes, and in you, amen. To the glory of God the Father. Thank you for making each one of us. You have called us your children, and you are proud of your children. You choose us before we even knew you, and you loved us before we even knew you loved us. And Lord, I just want to ask that you would place your healing hand on anyone listening, that you would heal their mind, heal their hearts, heal their relationships, and help them to remember how loved they are, and that they are that they are important to you. Help them, Lord, to put into practice some of these healthy lifestyle, practical ways to keep their minds healthy, and help them to think through their thoughts, and help them to discern what is helpful, what is truthful. And Lord, I just think of Open Daily Living. That book is just so beautiful, and the Mind Cure chapter, Lord. Lord, only you are a healer, and we thank you that you can and you want to heal us, Lord. Thank you so much for the privilege of being on this show with Ayana. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you for joining us today. Guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This was Speak Your Truth, The Untold, where we create a space for inspirational, relatable, empowering, and elevating content. And it's an area space where we can all share and be comfortable and feel free to just be yourselves and speak our own truth. Thank you for joining us once again, Anna.
My privilege.
It was a privilege having her, and it was a privilege having you as well. And if you haven't forgotten, or if you have forgotten, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Click that notification bell. Share to somebody who may need this. If you see somebody feeling a little sad lately, they may need this talk. They may need this inspiration. If you feel somebody is depressed, or if you feel that somebody just needs to hear that there is hope, just click the share button and send them the link to this video, because this information needs to be passed around. I will definitely share the link for the websites in the description below, so you guys can check them out, because this is really good information. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining. See you same time, same place next week, Thursday at 8. Bye.